Yay! What's up, everybody? Happy Friday, one and all, as we are less than a week until September. We are Sports Take. I am Rob Ellis, along with Bill Colarulo and Tone DeShields. D-Gun off today, doing his thing with the grandkids and having fun, as he should. What's up, fellas? Bill, let's start with you, man. How you doing, man? You can check out Bill's podcast at Legal Hands to the Face. You can follow him on Twitter or X at Legal Hands to Face. What's going on, my man?
I am fired up, Rob. This is like the best time of year to be a sports fan. You got the Phillies push towards the playoffs. The regular season for the Eagles is finally here. This really is the best time of year to be a Philly sports fan.
I would agree with that. And of course, we have our man, the glue, as I like to call him, Tone DeShields. Tone, what's up, man? How you make it out? I like the backdrop there. You've been ready to take a dive into the ocean.
You flatter me, Rob. Listen, man, I appreciate you guys as always. You know, we're gonna have some fun today. I'm feeling good. Like Bill said, man, the football season is officially here. The preseason is behind us. Obviously, there are still some games that are left to be played for other teams, but when it comes to your Philadelphia Eagles fans, it's time to put up or shut up now. We've made all the predictions that we can make. We all have our opinions about this roster. We've made plenty proclamations and predictions, so on and so forth. All that stuff, put it to the side now. Now it's time to put the legal hands to the face. Shout out to my man, Bill Colarulo.
Yes, now it gets real. That's for sure. And look, let's face it. And by the way, let me shout out to everybody. What's up, Tyler? What's up, Twiz, Chris D, Jim G, Kevin, Forrest, Gorby. Who did I miss? Let's Sween Bull, Jeeb. All right, and anybody I missed, I apologize, but good to see all you guys. And Bill checking in even in the chat section. All right, so everybody's doing well out there. I'm glad to see and appreciate you hanging. Yeah, we're going to give you a heavy dose of the birds. We're going to go into roster battles, who could be the starters, who's going to may potentially be on the bubble, and we're looking at a Tuesday cut down, guys. So this thing's getting real very soon, and you know, we'll do a little bit on last night. Let's start with this. I was a little bit disappointed, and I know they announced it before the game started that Mariota was only going to get one series, but, and this is good and bad, Devin Allen rips off a 73-yarder, which was pretty sweet, and I wonder how that portends for him maybe making this team here, and did a nice job as a gunner too. But you know, basically, okay, good. You punched in a 27-yard drive where you had one completion. I would have liked a little bit more of him, guys, especially considering the Colts had their ones out there. Bill, where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little more of him too. I mean, we don't have the benefit all the time, though, of seeing these joint practices, these intense practices, as Sirianni likes to call them, where Mariota's getting more reps. But once Devin Allen had that big return and you gave Mariota a short field, it would have been nice to see him one more series. But we'll see. I don't know how confident they are in him, but to only give him one series, I look at their actions sometimes, not their words, and they must still be confident that he's their backup quarterback.
How about you, Tom? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Bill, you bring up a good point. You know, they have to be confident, right? They have no other choice. You know, the likelihood of them putting Tanner McKee out there as a rookie backup was slim to none, especially in this Jalen Hurts-centric offense. You want your backup to relatively mimic what your starter does in terms of play calling, play style, so on and so forth. We kind of saw what this team looked like without a quarterback that matches your starter when Gardner Minshew was out there. Granted, he did his best in that Cowboys game, but it really reared its ugly head in that Saints game. And you just saw limitations in that offense. And you kind of saw this coaching staff kind of handicapped because they were trying to do some things that they normally would do with Jalen Hurts. But obviously, Gardner Minshew wasn't able to fit the bill. But then you bring in a guy like Marcus Mariota, a guy who has experience in the RPO system, you know, playing at Oregon and then translating that game to the NFL. He's played for Tennessee, the Raiders, the Atlanta Falcons. So he's been around the league for about 8 seasons, going into his 9th season. I agree with you, Bill. I would have loved to see a lot more, I guess you'll say, tape or some more snaps from Marcus Mariota. I don't think he's done anything this offseason or during this training camp, rather, to necessarily prove that we should feel comfortable with him being back there. But when you think about the options they have, there's not really many quarterbacks on the market. So overall, this is the guy they have to roll with. And let's just hope and pray we don't have to see this guy on the field at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy the whole Tanner McKee thing. I'm sorry. I think he's done a really good job, and I think they have something for the future here. But you saw last night, Tanner McKee's in there against the 1s and the 2s, and he looked like a different quarterback. He was okay. He wasn't terrible. He was okay. It's a whole different story when you're going against the big boys. And I'm hoping that Mariota's got a little bit of that red light thing in him, where it's just when it gets real, he'll be a little bit better if you need him in short doses. Don't get me wrong. If this is anything long-term, God forbid, yeah, they're in big trouble. And I think therein is where you might take a run at a Matt Ryan or somebody like that. But for right now, I don't have any doubt that you're looking at Hurts 1, Mariota 2, McKee 3, maybe Book on the practice squad, or Book's not even here.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Mariota, say what you will about the guy, he has won 34 games in his career. So he started 87 games as a quarterback. Let's hope we don't find out if he has anything left. But if he did need to fill in for a game or two, he could be serviceable. But you can't turn the reins over to a 6th-round rookie in Tanner McKee, who we really haven't seen. And not only is he going against the 2s and 3s usually, you know how vanilla these defenses are in the preseason. Yep. They're not game planning. They're not doing their stunts and their blitzes and things like that. So let's just hope we don't find out, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
all right, so
sure.
that was one. Let's go back to Devin Allen. I mean, he fumbles it initially, and then you see the speed, the ability to kind of make people miss a little bit. He seems to flash like one play in the preseason every year. He did it as a gunner last year against Miami. But he actually did a decent job as a gunner as well last night. I think he did enough to ensure himself a place on the practice squad. I don't think he's on the squad, but where are you at, Tone, with that?
Yeah, it's funny. Last season, I remember he had that deep ball in that Browns game that really showcased his speed as well. Yep. So like you said, he has had these flashes or these moments of showcasing what he can do with that speed. But the reality is a guy like Devin Allen, he's 28 years old. I think, Bill, you said this last night. The clock is kind of ticking on his NFL career. I think the likelihood of him actually making a 53-man roster is very, very slim. The best he can hope for is a practice squad spot. But like you said, Rob, he did show some flashes at that gunner position. When you think about the Philadelphia Eagles losing their best gunner in Zach McPherson, there lies a spot that maybe Devin Allen can maybe make a point for himself or make a case for himself. But I think at this point, maybe 98, 97% of that roster, maybe 99% of that roster is already locked in. I think, and I think Big Sil said this last night, they're probably looking for maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 guys that they can maybe squeeze in on the roster. And then John McMullen spoke about how that roster that we're going to see once the cut downs come, it's just going to be a formality. There's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of guys being brought up, being cut, guys being brought back. It's going to be so much movement even after that initial cut day. But when it comes to Devin Allen, I think where he most likely will end up, he'll probably end up being a practice squad guy.
Yeah, we're going to dig into the defensive side of this thing in terms of roster battles, how we see this shaking out, who makes a team, who doesn't at 12:30. Then the offensive side coming up at 1 o'clock. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple impressions. And by the way, can somebody remind Anthony Richardson he was playing against like 3s and 4s who are going to be flipping hamburgers, in a couple days before you start doing the birds thing? Like, really, dude? Is this from the scuffles the other day? You felt like you need to avenge something? I mean, come on. Weak.
Yeah, we were saying that last night on the post-game show, me and Farzi. I mean, he's a rookie. Maybe you let him slide, but come on, man. It's the preseason game and you're taunting the crowd.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe how much of this is going to be happening when they're 4-13 this year?
But here's the thing, Bill, right? The same for the same reason you give him a pass, the same reason I can't give him a pass, right? You're a rookie. Know your place, my man. You just got here, okay?
Yeah.
You just got here.
You know what made it even worse is the broadcast last night. They kept bringing it up, kept showing the replay. Like, come on. And then talking to Shane Steichen, how much he loved the confidence Richardson was showing when he's taunting the crowd. Stop.
And by the way, like, he showed, obviously, he's crazy athletic and got out of a lot of jams and kind of kept plays alive.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you look at his numbers last night, was anybody really blown away? I mean, seriously, he was 6 for 17 for 78 yards. Rushed 5 times for 38 yards. Okay, dude. Against thirds.
That's kind of on par with his college career, being at 50% completion percentage. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. So look, a lot to get into in terms of who makes it, who doesn't. Anybody else flash at you guys last night? I mean, Tyreek Maddox Williams, who's been here for a very short period of time. Props to him. He was everywhere, man. He's the interception, a bunch of tackles. He may have snuck his way onto a practice squad too here.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool too. Local kid from Timber Creek High School, then did his college ball at Rutgers. So I know he had like 30 family members there, which was pretty cool. So yeah, he may have gotten on the practice squad. The other guy who continued to raise his stock, in my opinion, was Eli Ricks.
Yes.
He did a really nice job, and he's going against their number one's receivers. Michael Pittman, he locked him up. He looked really, really good. So he may have worked his way onto this roster, especially with McPherson being out for the year now.
Yeah, and especially because, the biggest thing for him is flash on special teams, man. And you got a really good chance, I think, of being here. I mean, look, it's a crowded defensive backfield for sure, but I think he's played his way on. I think he makes it. I do. I think they keep 6. And you can justify it by him playing special teams. I do. I mean, I think it's Slay, Bradbury, Maddox. Ringo's going to be here, even though he hasn't shown you really anything. Job's had too good a camp not to be here. And then I think Ricks. I think it's what it's going to be.
Yeah, especially again with McPherson being out, that 5th spot opens right up for a guy like Eli Ricks. So like you said, Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, Keely Ringo's going to be here. Then obviously you have the guys in front, Darius Slay, Bradbury, and Devontae Maddox. One guy that stood out to me last night, maybe not from a technique standpoint, but just from a pure athleticism standpoint, was the linebacker Ben Van Sumeren. He was just flying around. He led the team in total tackles by a large margin. He had 17 total tackles, 11 solo. So just putting that perspective, I mean, he may not make this initial 53-man roster, but he's definitely the kind of guy that you want to have, in the toolbox, because he has so much. He has so many raw tools, so much raw ability that you maybe can mold.
Yeah, started his career as a fullback and played a lot of fullback at college. He's kind of new to the linebacker spot, but man, that dude was everywhere. I think he's a good candidate if you get him on the practice squad and nobody grabs him up. That's the issue you have. But I think he's on the team in some capacity.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah,
I have a question for you guys. Is there anybody that you guys wish you could have saw last night? Wish you could have saw a little bit more? Wish that this person maybe did a lot more with the opportunity that they were given. And this could just go beyond just this game. It could be for the entire preseason.
I wanted Sermon to do more. And they gave him every opportunity early, and some of that is he's running behind a second string offensive line. I get it. So you can't lay it all on him, but I wanted him to flash a little bit just for his sake. And I think that he's not making this team, frankly. But so Sermon would be my answer. How about you? Bill?
Yeah, with Trey Sermon, too, they kept him on the active roster all year last year because they didn't want to risk someone signing him off the practice squad. So they clearly like this kid. Yeah. But I just don't see how he makes this team. I mean, a guy, I knew they weren't going to play him last night because they didn't play the starters, but I still want to see more of Nakobe Dean. We've only had 34 NFL snaps. I just want to make sure that this guy is the guy, because next to him is going to be a starter that they signed less than, 2 weeks ago, Zach Cunningham. So big question mark at linebacker. We'll get into all that later in the show.
For sure.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Hey, also, aside from that, the Kelsey documentary coming out. If you watch the TV broadcast that he was on last night, very funny, I thought, sideline interview. Did you guys hear the story he told when he and Travis were fighting in the kitchen?
No, I didn't catch it.
I'll say, so they get into it in the kitchen, right? And so the way Jason said, as they were growing up, he would always kind of kick Travis's butt, right? And then finally, one time they were out on the basketball court and they started going at it, and like Jason threw a punch and Travis just kind of took it like, that's all you got. And he knew like things were starting to shift a little bit, right? But anyway, they got into a fight in the kitchen and they knocked like the oven off its moorings. And the dad comes in and he's like, "What's good?" Starts screaming at them. Got in the middle of them and they were still kind of fighting. And the dad started screaming. It was a really funny story from Kelsey.
Oh, man.
But I'm excited to watch this. I think it's going to be really good, man.
Yeah, it's going to be on Amazon, right?
Yeah, and it was like the premise of it initially was watch Jason play out his last year or something. And like, meanwhile, he's still here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he said that him and Connor Barwin started doing a documentary 2 years ago for him transitioning to life without football. And now 2 years later, he's still here, thankfully.
Yeah, here we go. So that'll be pretty good. So aside from that, and again, we'll get into the full rosters and all that stuff in a second. But Barbara, D-Gun is off today. D-Gun is helping set up for the gigantic party that he's having for his grandson on Saturday. I'll tell you what, Gunner does it right, Tone, when he has the parties. He blows it out, man. He's got a water slide there. He's got, trucks coming with food. Man, I had a birthday cake maybe, and we'd have hot dogs or something. But I want to be D Gun's grandchild.
Hey, listen, it's so funny you say that, because I've always been really iffy about first birthdays. Yeah. Right? It's like, do I go all out, or do I kind of keep it nice and simple with the family? Because in my mind, and maybe this is me being a little too literal, a 1-year-old is not going to remember it anyway. So,
I'll give you an example of that. So when my kids were little, my daughter was like, I don't know, 3 maybe. Okay. Right. And my son was like 6 or 7. We went to Disney World. It was great, right? She doesn't remember any of it now. Like, doesn't remember a second. I'm like, could we have waited like 3-4 more years so she could have some memories of this? But anyway, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. But beyond that, we have the Phillies taking on the Cardinals with a 3-game series starting this weekend. They took 2 or 3 from the Giants. The last game was a little bit disappointing in that Harper hits the home run to bring him back. But nonetheless, they take 2 out of 3. This thing's kind of tight, man. If you look at the standings, and we'll get a little bit more into this in a second here, but the Cubs are kind of right there, and it's not just the Cubs; it's really everybody. But the Cubs are only 2 back. You got Arizona right there, San Fran, Cincy, and Miami all right there. Yeah. There isn't gonna be, I don't think, other than maybe the last series or 2, a whole lot of breathing room. Like, you're gonna have to continue to play good baseball here. You're the Phils.
Yeah, they definitely do. And these are 2 winnable series coming up. So they got to keep winning games here. But, the good news is it doesn't look like the San Francisco or Cincinnati have been too hot lately. Right. But that Arizona Diamondbacks team, man, they won 5 in a row, 8 and 2.
They've come back. They look like they were dead and buried,
Yeah, they're playing some good baseball right now. So it's going to be tight, but this is what we live for, man. This is what makes the season exciting. You just want them to be in it going into these last 35 games. And this team, I'm falling in love with them all over again the last couple of weeks. It's been great.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, the place has been on fire.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's important as well is the fact that, the Phillies have been up and down on the road. They have a 500 record on the road, right? But these next stretch of games, they're going to be at home. And they have a much better record at home. I think they're 36-25. So they have to take advantage of this home stretch. This has to be the stretch where they really create separation amongst themselves.
Oh, listen, no doubt. And you're going to get a break when the Angels come in here. At least you're not going to have to face Ohtani as a pitcher.
Right.
He still may DH, but you're not going to face him as a pitcher. So that's really, really big. There's no question about that. So Phillies, it'll be exciting. That's for sure. I want to circle back to the Eagles here, guys, and the question I have for you as we look ahead, because now finally we can put to bed the preseason games and all that kind of stuff. We're in New England mode now. Specific to this game, an entire offseason for the hoodie to sort of game plan and get ready for what the Eagles did last year and all the success that they have, versus a team that just looks like they don't have a whole lot of offensive, weaponry and that kind of stuff. But how concerned are you guys with this game? Or do you feel like we're just kind of making a little bit too much of it? Brady's retired, number being retired, the whole emotional pitch of that. How do you view this game?
Week 1 in the NFL is always funny. You never know how things are going to go, but you just look at it on paper. I know Belichick, great defensive mind and all that. The Eagles roster is just so much better than the New England Patriots. You hope that they're going to be able to come out and dominate this game on the offensive side of the ball. And I just don't think the Patriots offense has the firepower with Mac Jones to be able to exploit some of the weaknesses that we're concerned about with this Eagles defense.
Yeah, I think for me, like you said, Bill, week 1 is wacky. Anything can happen. We saw how that Detroit Lions team pushed the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1. But then by the end, by week 18, you realize that maybe that week 1 matchup was maybe one of their more pivotal, maybe one of their more difficult opponents, because the Detroit Lions began to come on as the season progressed. But when it comes to the New England Patriots, like you said, they're not as talented as the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are extremely well coached. Bill Belichick, they have Bill O'Brien as the OC, who may be able to resurge Mac Jones' development. Mac Jones kind of got the wrong end of the stick last season where he had Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. I think that was one of the worst decisions Bill Belichick has ever made as a head coach. But when I look at this Patriots roster, the person I'm paying close attention to, or the group I'm paying most attention to, is their running back situation. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles were middle of the pack last season in terms of stopping the run. Yep. The New England Patriots are one of those teams that are very physical. They have a really good defense, and they have no problem running that ball 20, 30 plus times. So when I think about the guy, Ramondre Stevenson, he had over 1,400 yards of total offense, over 1,000 rushing yards, averaged 5 yards a carry, 5 rushing touchdowns, but over 1,400 yards of total offense. So they use him in the passing game, and they obviously use him in the running game. If the Philadelphia Eagles are not able to limit that running game for the New England Patriots, it's going to be a long day.
I would agree with that. And you know that I think Bill O'Brien's going to look to take some heat off of Mac Jones early. And if you can establish that, then you set up the play action, everything. I mean, there's Ezekiel Elliott, there's Stevenson. I think they're going to run it. I'm going to be really fascinated to see what they do from a defensive standpoint to try to counter the RPOs and everything that the Eagles are doing. Like that, to me, is going to be the fascinating chess match, piece of this thing with what New England does. And let's face it, last year, and back to the point of you never know week one. I mean, and I know Detroit turned out to be a lot better than we thought they were going to be, but that was a game that the Eagles really escaped. Like that was a game where you came away from it. Jalen was running for his life, number one. And, I was like, whoa, what's going on with the offensive line here? Now they settled in after that, but that was a little troubling for a minute there in that Detroit game. And I don't know, the hard thing when these guys don't play really in the preseason, it's just kind of like, all right, now it's real. The red light's on. Let's see what you got. You look at other teams like Pittsburgh, who was playing their ones last night. Pickett was out there. Pickens was out there. Even Andy Reid believes in playing his ones. I'm far be it from me to question this because it's worked very well with the injuries, but that's also part of the dicey thing. You don't get to see these guys play.
Yeah, really quickly, Bill, before I let you go, I'm going through the live chat. As we do the show, sometimes I go between the live chat and I go between my job as a producer, and I like to see what the people are thinking. And I'm not seeing enough respect for the opponent right now. And obviously, there are some people who do respect the opponent. It's not everybody, but I'm not seeing enough respect for the opponent. Let's put this thing in perspective. The New England Patriots went 8-9 in a stacked AFC. And supposedly their offense was trash last year. Supposedly. They went 8-9 in the stacked AFC. You can make an argument if they were in the NFC, maybe they go, 9-8, 10-7, right? So that's a well-coached team. Maybe what they lack in talent, they make up for in coaching. They're always going to be prepared. And especially given the fact that it's week one, we have to respect the opponent, Eagles fans. I understand we're excited. I understand we have the utmost faith in our offense. We understand that Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. We understand we have so much talent on the defensive side of the ball. I get that, and I'm with you. I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I'm rocking till the wheels fall off. I got you. But there has to be a little bit more respect for the opponent. I believe we need to really pump our brakes and let this thing play out for itself. But again, nothing wrong with being excited. Just respect the opponent a little bit more, especially in week one.
Yeah. Look, I think that's a piece of this thing. You do have to take all of those things into account, with where they are. And guess what, man? It doesn't get any easier for New England in that division. I mean, if Tua stays healthy, not to mention the Bills, really, this is the year to prove it. It's enough getting close, right? I mean, you think about how stacked, and now the Jets with Rodgers, that division is absolutely loaded. All right, let me ask you guys this while we're on that. Toughest overall division in your estimation in the NFL, either conference. Bill, how about you? You go first.
I think it's the East on both sides, the AFC East and the NFC East. Well, you know what? I say the AFC East, but you got to look at the AFC West just because the Chiefs are in it. But, that AFC East is going to be tough, and especially now with the rumors that the Dolphins may get Jonathan Taylor. You add him to that stacked offense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's probably the toughest division in the AFC now with Rodgers there as well. But the NFC, I'm still going to go with the NFC East. Eagles, Cowboys, Giants. We always play each other tough. There hasn't been a repeat winner. Everyone's heard the stories. So I think it's the East on both conferences.
I go AFC East with the nod over anybody else. How about you, Tone?
Just so we're not being repetitive, I'm going to go with, on the AFC side, I'm going to go with the AFC North. I know the sexy answer is the AFC West because you got the Chiefs, you got the Chargers, you got the Broncos, the Raiders. I'm not too sure about them, but I know the AFC West is probably the sexy pick, even the AFC East. But I'm going to go AFC North. I feel like out of all the divisions, that's the most gritty, the most grimy of the divisions in the AFC. You got the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, a crazy rivalry right there. Steelers, Browns. I feel like all those teams, regardless of how good or least talented the rosters are, I think all those teams play each other extremely tough. And I have a hard time locking in who's going to win that division. It could be the Ravens. It could be the Bengals. It could be the Browns who finds a way to bring Deshaun Watson back from the dead. Kenny Pickett could take a crazy leap that we didn't anticipate. That guy, George Pickens, is starting to come alive, and they're well coached. So that AFC North, I feel like it's going to be a grinder, and it's going to be really tough to see who really pans out in the end. We saw the Bengals get pushed by the Baltimore Ravens, even when the Ravens had the backup in Snoop Huntley. So this is going to be a fascinating division to watch. So that's on the AFC side. And on the NFC side, I mean, you can't really go anywhere but the NFC East. I mean, the NFC West, the Cardinals are going to be terrible. The Rams are going to be terrible. I think the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are a dark horse to win that NFC West, man. That's just me. I'm
ahead of the 49ers?
I'm following that sword because the NFC West.
I don't believe in Geno enough, but I hear you.
I get where you're coming from with that because I'm of the mindset of I need to see you do it again, Geno, right? Because we have so much. We have a large sample size of him being terrible and not enough of him actually being good.
Yeah.
But there's something about that Seahawks team that I'm starting to fall in love with. I love the way they've rebuilt themselves in such a short amount of time. They kind of remind me of the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody thought they would be down and out for a long time, and then they just came out of nowhere and rebuilt this roster and retooled it and just gave Geno Smith a bunch of weapons, Metcalf, Najigba, Tyler Lockett, the running back situation. I really love what the Seahawks are doing. And then when it comes to 49ers, their quarterback positions makes me nervous. They're really banking on Brock Purdy finding some way to revitalize what he did last season. So we've seen many situations where guys go on these magical runs and then they come back to earth because the league has a lot of tape on them. But overall, you got to go back to the NFC East, man. I mean, the NFC East is just the best division, arguably, in football. Arguably. Yeah,
which is not great news if you're the Eagles. You'd like a couple cupcakes.
I like that. No, actually, no. And Bill, I want to get your thoughts.
Are you an iron sharpens iron? See, I'll take a couple cupcakes in there, Tone.
Bill, I want to get your thoughts on this, right? Would you rather have a division where you're being challenged every other week by your division mates, or would you rather have a division where you're just coasting through? You're not really being tested. You're not really being battle tested for the task at hand. What would you rather have?
As an Eagles fan, I'd rather have some easy games. As a football fan, I love that these games are always tough. But I mean, even look at last year. The Washington Commanders were not a really good football team,
right?
And they beat the Eagles because the NFC East just always plays each other tough. But I'd like to see this year in particular. I would love to see the NFC East a little bit easier because the schedule is hard enough.
I get it. I get that logic for sure.
Yeah, give me path of least resistance. That maybe says a lot about my character. All right, let's get a timeout. We'll come back. We're going to dive into the defensive side. We're going to basically predict who makes it, who doesn't make it, trim down this roster, and look ahead to what's right on the forefront here 2 weeks from Sunday. He is Bill Colarulo, of course, legal hands to the face. He's Tone to Shields. I am Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm going to tell you about Bravo Pizza of Havertown right now. I'll be headed there in a little while. The countdown's on, my friends. Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Been going there since I was a kid. Family owned since 1985. Alex and his crew in there every single day, providing the best and fresh food on a daily basis. They offer 20 different styles of pizza. They have slices to go. I'm getting the grandma tonight. That's the upside down. But they have specialized pizza your way. However you like it, they will make it. And it's not just pizza. It's fresh pasta. It's sandwiches. It's wraps. It's wings, salads. Bravo Pizza of Havertown is also committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charities, for schools, for little leagues, where the proceeds go to those organizations. You can follow them on Instagram or Facebook at the Bravo Pizza of Havertown for daily specials and promotions. They're at 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown. That's 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown. Give them a call, 610-446-3810. 610-446-3810. Bravo Pizza of Havertown.